Adli, kita dah streaming dekat YouTube.
Ada ke orang tengok pagi-pagi ni?
Kan? Tak apalah sebab kita
Record lah.
on YouTube and kita record. So kalau dia orang tak sempat tengok sekarang pun, insyaAllah they will be able to watch it later.
Yeah. But I think they should continue lah, Mizan, that it has to be continuous engagement.
InsyaAllah, we'll have the second one next week. Dr. Adli dah tak sabar dah nak run yang next week punya ni.
Next week siapa? Who's next week?
Oh, next week kita punya topik memang crucial, Prof. Soft.
Which is?
Kita nak betulkan soft, nak rapatkan soft. Nak march dengan bangganya.
Yeah. You need people who can speak truth to power. I always believe in transparency lah. Cakap berselindung-selindung ni people don't get. What's that?
Welcome Dr. Faris.
Are they live already? Dah live dah ke?
Dekat YouTube dah live juga ni, but we'll just wait for a few more minutes.
Yeah, so I better stop talking.
Okay, Assalamualaikum everyone.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Yeah.
Waalaikumsalam.
So we have all our speakers are ready, yeah? Thank you, Dr. Faris. Joining.
Yeah. Kelah kabut sikit lagi ni, sorry.
Tak apa. We're gonna start sharp at 9:30, right, Mizan? Okay. Will there be a Q&A at the end, or open to all? Or?
If there are questions in between, I shall read the questions first.
Okay.
And then after we have finished the second round, then we can open for Q&A.
Okay.
We'll run this at the maximum of 1.5 hours. Would that be okay? Okay, can Prof?
Okay, good.
Dr. Faris, okay? If we run it until
11. I will have to leave by 11:30. Sempat kot,
okay. InsyaAllah. Okay, I think it's already 9:30. Shall we start now?
Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Brothers and sisters, welcome to our very first ASA IWON webinar series. But before we begin our discussion this morning, let us first recite Al-Fatihah in order to gain his blessings and guidance, inshallah. Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Welcome all our brothers and sisters. Inshallah today we will be talking about a very important topic, the seventh up. Rector came up with 6 ups, so we add it to make it 7. That is buckle up, which I think everybody has to buckle up and embrace the challenges that will come ahead, inshallah. Actually, we are also having our live stream on the IIUM World Debate and Oratory YouTube. If you can't, they can't see us on Zoom, so we have these 2 platforms to air our discussion today. So before I begin, we're introducing our speakers. I think this is a very important initiative that ASA has taken in order to create a culture of critical discourse among the members of the university to hear what the people in the middle management and also from the grassroots levels, what do they have to say about the policies, about the initiatives taken by the university, which I think carry a very important weightage in order for us to move forward. So together with IIUM World Debate and Oratory Center, which is also a center that advocates critical discourse and critical debate. So inshallah, today, this morning, we have with us three prominent speakers, which I think need no further introduction. Our very Honorable Professor Dr. Nur Faridah Abdul Manaf. Prof. Faridah, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Prof. Faridah is currently professor at KIKHS, and she's also the coordinator for Women for Progress Research Unit Cluster, also attached to the Kuliah. And the second speaker that we have today, a very busy man, one of the key person in forming the roadmap of IIUM and all the success stories behind it, Dr. Muhammad Faris Abdullah, our director from the Office of Strategy and Institutional Change, OSIC. Welcome, Doctor. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum. You've been very kind to me. I may be busy, but because we are working together, that most of the job being done by other people.
Okay. I'm not that very kind, actually. Wait until the real session starts. Okay, and the third member of our panel today is probably the youngest among all, Dr. Syed Abdul Khaliq Syed Abdul Hamid, an assistant professor at Kuliah of Medicine. He is a specialist in pediatric with subspecialization in neonatology, the newborn babies area. So if you have any problem related to newborn babies, you can contact Dr. Syed Abdul Khaliq. He's also attached to our SASMEC. So we have heard a lot about IIUM roadmap and all the success stories from our first roadmap 1.0 lah. We call it as IIUM roadmap 1.0, 2019-2020. And I must say that it was a wonderful achievement that we have achieved within the span of 2 years. But I'm pretty sure there are still a lot that we can talk about it, especially with another roadmap, IIUM roadmap 2.0, that have been presented by Tan Sri Rector 2 or 3 weeks ago during our first COP. Now, straight to our discussion today, I'm going to start with Prof. Faridah. Okay. Prof, you have been here in the university for 31 years under 5 different leadership. Okay. And I'm pretty sure you have seen the ups and downs of this university. And under the new roadmap 2021-2022, humanizing education has become the core of our roadmap. How do you see this new direction different from whatever that we have been doing for the past 37 years? Please.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Mizan, for inviting me. And I appreciate this dialogue. Before I answer the question you have posed me, I would like to draw our attention to 2 things, right? One is the role and function of a university according to Islamic perspective. 2 is the history of IIUM, its role in Malaysia for Malaysia, and its role for the Ummah, at large. Now, the Prophet is a teacher sent to us to perfect our akhlaq. That's in the Quran. You see that in lots of his examples in hadith. If we look at the basic purpose of living, which is to know of Allah, taqwa, in doing that, we have to be mindful of our relationship of Allah. So in understanding this taqwa thing, we have to be mindful of our relationship with Allah, our relationship with one another, hablum minan nas, hablum minallah, our relationship with the environment. These are core values in Islam. Now, the other thing is to understand the end goal of education. If to go back to why the Prophet was sent to us, it is to refine our character. So the end goal of education is to refine our character so that we can be of use to other people, to the environment as well. Going back to that triangle relationship, relationship to Allah, relationship sesama manusia, relationship to the environment. And if you look at several Islamic scholars like Ismail Faruqi and scholars like Sheikh Al-Abbasi, they also are on the same page saying that the goal of education is da'wah. The main aim in university is to qualify the student to be a good da'iyah, a good caller to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right. So we need to understand this before I comment on the roadmap. The other two is the history of IIUM. Yeah, IIUM was set up as an alternative to Western-oriented education, which is to bring us back to the objective of Islamic education, to decolonize ourselves, to reassert our Islamic heritage and identity. So our attitude towards knowledge, towards learning, this culture of innovation, which was like there at the beginning of Islamic civilization, must be brought back. So I think having understood all this, if we understand it at all, not everybody knows this because most of us are educated in the West, or at least from system. Even if we are educated in Malaysia, the education is still Western oriented. So going back to this Islamic education thing is maybe something new to many of us. So if we understand this, the next question is how far our roadmap 2021 match these concerns that I have just raised. How far are we? So I think there are some overlaps, but have we communicated this clearly? Take, for example, I think the other question is also to ask whether we have achieved the first phase of IIUM strategy areas, the 7 trusts that is also mentioned in the roadmap. You know, we can't just say, oh, it's there, therefore we are not moving away from the original trust. But, you know, the 7 missions of IIUM of past that we have been working on for the last 20, 25, 30 years, the 7 missions is very, very important because I think it reflects the being of IIUM. The 7 missions are integrated knowledge, sustainable development, Islamization, Islamic moral spiritual values, international community, intercultural understanding, deep sense of social responsibility. If you look at the 7 strands, the emphasis on intercultural, internationalization, even Islamization itself. Islam is a global religion. It cannot be narrowed down to a specific location, Malaysia only, Malay only, and so on. We have to understand this. We cannot just say, yes, they are there embedded in the roadmap, but what measurement have we used? What are the results to say that we have achieved that 7 trusts, right? For us to move on to new things, or at least, you know, some new things in roadmap 21-22. So I think, you know, we need all this. We need to see how we turn these strategies into actionable insights. And the question for the little people is, what can we do to help achieve these strategies? That's the concern for all of us, all right? But first we have to be clear lah. The little man must know the vision and mission clearly. roadmap tu must be fully understood. We don't want it to stop at a certain level because we're not communicating with ground level. So I appreciate, dialogues like this. It should be continuous. We should be talking to more people, empower middle management. The heads of department are very important because heads of department are the one who talk to the grassroots. Bukannya deputy dean, bukannya sejahtera council. If you just stick to that, it will not go to the ground, and therefore you will not get enough participation. So I think I stop there for a moment, and then kita akan continue lah, ya, Mizan. I think I've said a lot to reflect on.
Okay, thank you, Prof. And the very question that you raised actually comes nicely to my question to Dr. Faris. Now, if we look at the roadmap to 2019-2020, one of the biggest agenda that have been repeated over and over during LICA, during meeting, during presentations by the university's management was that we need to break the silos and we need to create the culture of collectiveness. The thing is, when we embarked with the roadmap 1.0, from your perspective, being one of those who heavily involved in moving the roadmap, have we really achieved this goal? Like, have we really break the silos, or was it just in an involvement of only certain group of people except the vast majority? And what do you see were the obstacles in achieving this particular agenda?
Assalamualaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Can you hear me loud and clear, Mr. Mizan? Yeah. You were accurate enough, 100% accurate that breaking the silo has been one of the main features of our roadmap since 2019. And in fact, we carry that message again in our roadmap 2021-2022. Can I share some slides? Yeah, let me try. Screen share. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Just a quick slides, yeah, just to show you this is our roadmap 2019-2020. Although Sister Mizan mentioned roadmap 1.0, actually we have roadmap 2.0 already in 2019-2020 because we have made some modification to our roadmap initially, in the original roadmap. But I would like to point us to this diagram. The whole roadmap is available on our website, but I just would like to highlight a few things here since you were asking about working in a non-silo environment. If you look at the roadmap 2019-2020, you will notice this diagram which we use to represent us working together. We call it a tetrahedron model because it's like a pyramid. As we know, triangle is one of the strongest structure in the world. That's why we use triangle in our building construction, in our trusses and our structures and so on. So when you combine these all triangles into a pyramid-like structure, it becomes very, very strong. So we want to symbolize that if every one of us working together and every side of this pyramid are interconnected. So if every one of us working together, we can be very, very strong. All right. So we brought that into our current roadmap. Let me run this slideshow presentation. It will look better, I think. All right. So how we do it? We started with these 4 circles, all right, and then we overlap them with one another to show that everything that we do, we need to be working with one another. We need integration in our activities, in our initiatives. And we have this. We say if for everything to work, we need a good support at the base of the framework. So we added another circles, and when we are done, it looks like this. So I think the director has presented this during Aliko. Everyone is quite aware of this diagram now. So it consisted of several quadrants or petals, and they overlap with one another. If you look closely, you can see where the shades become darker. That's where we have to work together harder. We have to work more together. Yeah. So in this case, humanizing education being the strategic direction of the IIUM roadmap is the darker shade. So everyone must work together so that we can achieve what we want to achieve, which is the humanizing education through maqasid syariah and sustainable development. So, okay, when you talk about how successful we are, I want to show you, can I show you another, let me see. All right. This is our flagship saja lah, ya. You see, we have been trying very hard to break the silo for the past 2 years. We have been bending around this term, non-silo, working together. And by now, I hope everyone has heard of it, at least exposed to it, what it means as well. And fair enough, we created a platform so that people can start working together. One of those platforms were the flagships, IIUM flagships. These are high impact initiatives. It's not top-down initiative. It's all proposed by our own staff, bottom-up approach. They propose projects that they are passionate about, that they want to carry out to drive the university further. So we had 29 flagship previously. Right? So by the end of 2020, there is some numbers, like, if you like, yeah, that we can share on the performances of these flagships. You see here we have almost 1,000. We have 1,700 project members, consisted of all academic, administrative, as well as student members. Right? So 1,000. If we talk about our staff, we have like 5,000. This is like 40% involved in the flagship projects. But more importantly, we have 4,000, almost 5,000 staff participations in our activities. And if we talk about students, we have 7,000. I can admit that our student participation is quite low, given that we have like 30,000 students in the campus. And with external participants, we have like 5,800 participants. So to us, you can make your own conclusion whether this has been successful in creating that non-silo working environment. But to us, we were quite satisfied with what we have achieved. All right. Obviously, like Sister Mizan mentioned earlier, there are rooms that we can improve further. So that's why we again carry this what you call this working together into our new roadmap. And for the past 2 years, I've been in this office for almost 2.5 years now. For the past 2 years, I can see some changes in terms of us working together. Not just between individuals, but also inter-agencies. Yeah? Now, officers, they talk to one another a lot more. Right? Previously, we do have that. We used to have this gap in communication, but now I think most of the officers, they're beginning to speak to one another more freely, and things get done more smoother. And COVID-19 also helped us to work together as well. Yeah. We created the Sejahtera Council. We established the Sejahtera Council. We established the operation room, where if you look at our operation room for COVID-19, we have like 40 agencies in that operation room punya setup, kan. That is where we work with one another, trying to control and contain the COVID-19 situation in the university. So overall, we have been working very close together, but because of COVID, we cannot be too close lah, kan. We need that physical distancing lah, but otherwise, you can say we work close, kan. We work close. I think, to me, if you ask me personally, I would say there is a positive improvement in terms of us working together, and I'm also quite happy to hear that wherever we go, we hear people talking about non-silo working environment. We have to break the silo, things like that. So I believe, to a large extent, we have been quite successful in that sense. Thank you. So I stop share now, yeah?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Faris. Just before I move to our third speaker, I noticed that the figure that you gave shows to us that there are still 60% of our staff members who
Yes.
were still not involved in the process of breaking the
Yeah,
silos,
okay.
and there were still probably around 26K students who were
Yes.
not involved. Now, what was actually happened? Why were they not involved? That's, I think, an issue that we need to address, so that these 60% of staff with the roadmap 2021-2022, they should start getting involved.
I have to admit that when we started with the whole flagship saga, we were quite in the dark. It was our first time trying it. Right? We were groping in the dark. We don't have sufficient experience on how to handle it. So obviously there are weaknesses here and there. And like true enough, like you mentioned, we managed to get 40% of staff involvement, but we're still lacking like 60%. In the beginning, it's quite difficult to tell people, or even to tell the flagship project members, that these are actually not your project per se. It belongs to the university. You should open up. You should open up. But people tend to protect their babies, right? So that's one of the things that happened. And with the students pula, I have to admit that initially we don't give particular attention to the mahala. So that's where the bulk of the students are in. So that's why now we are opening for flagships 2.0 now. Right? The deadline is tomorrow. Alhamdulillah, until today we have received like almost 70 applications. And among the criteria that we put in this time, because we know better now, among the criteria that we put in this time, we want to see student participation. We want to see a greater mixture of staff involvement from interkuliah. And we also have been popularizing this KCDIOM terminology. Previously kita selalu KCDIO kan, but now we have started to say KCDIOM, so that mahala also in the picture. And alhamdulillah, we have been receiving proposals for flagship from mahala as well, which is a good step in the right direction. So we hope that in the next 2 years, we can get more involvement from staff and students as well.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Faris. So inshallah, I hope there will be some flagship programs coming from mahala that will, make it through and be recognized. So that we can see the creativity and also the strong willpower from among our students. Just before we move to the third speaker, the audience out there, if you have any questions, you can type it in the comment section, or you can also raise your hand if you have any question that you want to ask before I go into the next round later. Now, Dr. Syed, coming from the grassroots point of view, kira grassroots lah kita ni kan. Now, what kind of challenges did you face in playing your roles to achieve the goals set by the university, and what should have been done to address those challenges?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Sister Mizan for inviting me and for the question. And thank you for the previous two speakers, Dr. Faridah and also Dr. Faris. Thank you so much. Okay, so what are the challenges that I think we have faced at the grassroots level? So again, I'm a clinician. I'm a clinical lecturer. So a huge bulk of my work is actually clinical services. So I'm going to talk probably more in that region. Again, sorry if some of the things that I said hurt some people, but I don't care. So there are a few things that I think I need to highlight. The first thing is, I think what we are doing, IIUM, what we are doing, I'm very sorry, but this is what I feel. And I think some of the staff, especially in Kuantan campus, we do share some of the feelings as well. So we still feel that IIUM is still too Gombak centric. So where the ideas, the plannings and everything, it sounds and it feels like it is too Gombak centric. it focuses too much on Gombak. And I think this is something that we do need to highlight in many quarters in Kuantan and CFS. We do feel that we do feel a bit alienated in some way. I know there are efforts being done to make it better, but well, that is the, I think many of us in Kuantan, we do still feel that, okay, this is a Gombak idea. So we don't feel part of it. So I think this is a huge loss, because Kuantan, in terms of space, the size of the campus is bigger than Gombak. That's the size of the campus. We have many kuliahs in Kuantan, and we have two huge major hospitals. We have the third biggest hospital in Pahang, in Kuantan, our hospital, Sultan Ahmad Shah Medical Center. This is hospital that has service as part of it. And then we have IIUM Medical Specialist Center, which earns money for the university, and a lot. It's not a big money that we earn for the university. So I think these are all service related that I think we should have included in part of IIUM framework and roadmap, I think. And then the other issue, I think things like the Sejahtera framework, the IIUM roadmap. Again, there is a feeling, I think it's shared not just in Kuantan and CFS, but also in other campuses and even some in Gombak as well. I think some of the academicians still feel that this idea is not trickled down well. So because mainly Dr. Faris, maybe the director, is the only one that has been mentioning about all this a lot, but it is not trickled down well. We don't see any posters, any banners about this anywhere. Even if you look at IIUM's website, the Sejahtera framework is just in draft form. You don't see the an easier representation of the framework of the roadmap that we are going to face. So it feels that the idea is just by director and certain few, and not being trickled down to at all level that it should have been. Secondly, as I mentioned before, we do in Kuantan, we have two hospitals, and this hospital, mind you, is not just for teaching, it's for service as well. And if we don't perform service well, the end result is people die. So, and this is not acceptable at all. So cheap shot, so as an academic hospital, as a university hospital, we should be the pioneer, we should be the center for excellence for proper clinical care. So a lot of our work as clinical lecturers, actually we perform in the university hospital, in our Sultan Ahmad Shah Medical Center. So the thing is, if you see, among our problem is that the amount of clinical work is actually quite a lot, because we need to look after patient. Like me, I'm a neonatal intensive care unit specialist. So I look after very, very ill babies. So like just now, I need to run and settle babies, intubate babies, and so on and so forth. So the thing is, sometimes we do the, how to say this, it troubles us to move forward when we don't have enough strength in terms of manpower, for example. Because if you see staffing for posts, the posts are decided, I think, among our problem is that the posts are not decided based on the need. Because we have a number of posts for kuliah medicine, for example. But then those numbers are limited. Certain departments with very few lecturers, it's very difficult for us to extend, to add more posts. Because like my department, pediatrics, ONG, we don't have enough lecturers. We do on-calls, like the whole week we do on-call, meaning like 36 hours continuous working. And we are being paid like 250 for 24 hours, which is just 10 ringgit per hour, which is much less lah. Maknanya kerja McDonald pun probably you'll earn more. But that's fine. That's okay. I'm graduate, so whatever I am don't pay, so I'll work. It doesn't really matter. But the thing is, how can we work well when we don't have enough people? Because we do need to teach students, we do need to teach year 3, year 5, and then even Widat University also ask us to help because they don't have pediatrician. So then we need to balance between our work and also teaching and so on and so forth. So it's a bit of a struggle. I did remember there was one lecture by the rector. I think rector talked about COVID-19 and how we should move forward. So I asked Rector personally. I asked him I think it should be available in YouTube as well. I asked Rector because Rector was talking about Myra and so on and so forth. So I asked Rector. So like in Kuantan, we are building the unit, we are building the service. It's very difficult for us to focus on Myra, to focus on this when we have so much clinical work to do. This question was also asked directly to the rector when the rector came to Kuantan campus. Was asked by one of our HOD for obstetrics and gynecology. And rector's answer was the same, both times. Is that he said, if you think Myra is not important for the build up of your department, then scrap Myra. Focus on the building of your service, which I am very happy because I think the focus when we don't have enough people, the focus should be different. But then when we discuss it later, it still comes back to the same thing. How much research, how much publication, how much this and this and this. And I think it doesn't, it feels for us, for some of us, for me at least, it feels that sometimes what the rector says, sometimes it feels a bit just theoretical, just rhetoric, but it's not trickled down. The idea that we need to build ourselves first, we focus on what things that we think is important for us, for the department, for the university, rather than certain things. But then it doesn't feel that it is being trickled down, it's being carried forward. The other issue, again, about APA and so on and so forth. Again, the thing is, how can we move forward well when we don't feel happy? This is a problem that I think we need to have. When people are happy, we perform better. Studies have shown quality is not by time. It doesn't really matter you work 8 to 5. You can work 8 to 1, but if you do better, then that's fine. That's okay, because what important is the productivity rather than the time you spend working on the job. So, for example, I feed my APA recently, but the mainly our recognition is for things like research, publication, and so on and so forth. But if I give example, how many babies that I save, for example, is it important? It should have value. So how can we quantify them? How many surgeries has been done? How many people have been saved by our surgeon? It should mean something. And how many guidelines that we do for COVID-19? Are we involved in meetings and presentation at many other levels? It should mean something, but so far it doesn't feel like it means anything. For example, my team, part of the Halimatul Saadiah Mother's Milk Center, which we were trying to establish in Sultan Masha Medical Center, there's a fatwa by the Muzakarah Madil Fatwa Kebangsaan in 2011, saying that donation of mother's milk is harus, is ibahah, but formation of milk bank is haram. So the fatwa, according to Muzakarah Madil Fatwa Kebangsaan in 2011, and also according to the Majma' Fiqh Antarabangsa as well, it says that formation of milk bank for Muslims should be avoided, should be discouraged, and it is haram. So what we were doing for the past 1 year is that we were trying to convince Madil Fatwa Pahang that this is needed. Formation of mother's milk bank is needed. It should be allowed. It should be halal. It should be permissible. And I tell you, we have presented several times to the Madil Fatwa Pahang. I've met several times with the Mufti, and they have rescinded the fatwa. They have allowed formation of mother's milk bank in Pahang under Sultan Ahmad Shah Medical Center, IIUM. So this should be a huge thing for the Ummah, and this would be the second Sharia compliant mother's milk bank in the whole world. This should be big. But did we get any recognition from anyone in IUM? Nothing. It's not included in APA. It's not included in anything. Not even a congratulation from any one of the top bosses I'm not requesting it for me. It doesn't really matter. I'm not the boss of this person. I'm the presenter, but I'm not the boss. But the thing is, I think this is a huge achievement, but nothing is done. So there's a mention in the newspaper saying about IIUM's achievement for the past 1 year. There's a photo of us with the Mufti Pahang, but that is just photo, but nothing mentioned in the documentation. So I think these are the things that I think we need to improve. Better culture. I think there are several Islamic things that I think we still need to improve. So we say we are Islamic university, but some of our acts maybe not Islamic enough. I don't have much time to explain that in more detail. And the other issue is MSD and HR. I think I have so many issues with MSD. I'm not going to go in detail about that. But I think MSD has a very important role to actually ensure that the academician actually can follow, can be happy to work. And because I think we can talk to all the kuliahs, but then if people are not happy, there's issue. I have told directly to the director that I think people in Kuantan, at least if they resign, it's because of MSD. So I think we do need to improve many aspects in terms of how we care for our academician, how we care, how we promote. I give you one example. There was one. I was part of a team in UAE where we had a collaboration with IIUM and also UITM and also a palliative care center in US. So we have a collaboration. We have a program with diploma. So the first year should be done in UITM, second year should be done in UAE, and so on and so forth. So there's 5 of us from SASMEC that was sent as the first representative from UAE, and I'm part of it. So we were going there. This is a collaboration between UAE, UITM, and in a center in US. But then to go to that program, we need to pay around 1,000 ringgit for the fee. But then we were given a letter from MSD saying that if you go for this program, which costs just less than 1,000 ringgit, we need to be bonded for 1 year. Because there's a letter from MSD saying that if you go for any training, 500 to 1,000 ringgit, you need to be bonded for extra 1 year. I don't know, this letter is actually mentioned for administrative staff, but the MSD people here say that it is applicable to academic as well, which it's so weird for me. Then if more than 1,000, 2 years, more than 2,000, 3 years. I said, this is UAE punya event, together with UITM, together with a center from USA. It should be huge. UAE should pay me to go there. But they asked me to be bonded. I said, what is this? And then when I asked MSD, so the answer was, okay lah doctor, if we send people for training, people balik training, dia keluar dari UAE. I said, if this is your mentality, then people should leave. Because if you think people join UAE by we chaining them up, kita ikat orang ketat-ketat kan, ikat ketat-ketat, people will stay with us, then that is very wrong mentality. People will stay with us if we provide growth for them, if we provide opportunity for growth. If people are happy, if you don't pay them, they will stay. People like me, I'm IIM graduate, UAE can do so many things for me. UAE has not paid salary for me 14 months, 14 bulan tak ada gaji. I don't mind, it's okay. I'll still stay in UAE. So I see this thing, MSD and HR has a lot of work to do. I think that's it lah.
Okay, boleh tarik nafas dulu Dr. Syed? Okay, but I think Dr. Syed came up with a few important points that need to be pondered by us all. The term that you used just now was Gombak centric, and I think this sentiment was not just felt by those in Kuantan, but I'm pretty sure was also felt by people in Gambang, in CFS, and also in Pago, because I think there are a lot of things which were probably not well communicated to our friends over there. And it seems like this comes to a very important question of inclusivity and communication. I think this is a very important issue that we all need to address. So Faris, Dr. Faris, what do you have to say about this on the issue of inclusivity and proper, effective communication?
Okay. If Syed feel Kuantan was sideline, you should ask people from Gambang. I think they are even worse. And again, I have to admit, there has been one of our weak link for the past years, kan. And Alhamdulillah, we have made quite a progress during the past 2 years, especially. We have tried to involve many more ideas and inputs from Gambang and Kuantan as well as Pago. If you remember, we have been conducting actual roadshow for rectors to go and visited all the kuliahs and faculty or schools in Kuantan and Gambang. And we conducted, I think one of our earliest sharing session was in Gambang. And we had planned, for, if you're talking about Rector Roadshow, we had actually planned every 3 months Rector will be visiting Kuantan and Gambang as well. But because of, as we all know, COVID situation now, so we have to put that on hold for a minute. But Syed was right. In many situations, the inclusion of Kuantan and Gambang sometimes have been an afterthought rather than it comes naturally. Kan? So that is one of the areas that we must work harder to overcome. I'm not making excuses. I think we should be working together. We should be working harder to ensure that everyone is included. In terms of inclusivity, yes, one of it is part of our new roadmap principle. If you look in the framework, you can see the term inclusivity, which among other things is for us to include everyone, not just campus based, but also in terms of individual based. We tend to not to say ignore, but sometimes sidelines people of different abilities, and make some of our activities also sometimes excluded by design people with different income status. So now we have to think harder and make sure everyone is involved. Like I mentioned just now, previously we don't get that participation from students in our flagship, but now we are moving forward. We are creating new mechanisms so that students are also included in our work, in our initiatives. And I agree that cascading has been one of our weakest links, right? And even for Roadmap 2019-2020, cascading was not that I believe we could have done more, and that's why this time around we actually will be visiting all the kuliah. Probably online now kan because of the COVID ni, visiting online, right? But we will do a proper cascading, a much extensive cascading now. We have set up a group of teams to go around and explain the 4 components that we are promoting now, the roadmap, the Sejahtera Academic Framework, our future studies, and also the knowledge management. And of course, when Syed mentioned the Sejahtera Academic Framework on the website is still in draft form. Yeah, that is true because we have not said we have finalized those. We will only finalize all those documents after we have done with the cascading, so that we can get inputs from all staff members of IIUM, right? So now, of course, if you see in the website, it's still draft. It's draft, yes, true. We will only finalize it after we have done all the cascading, so that we can gather inputs, gather feedbacks from all our committee members, so that we can include in all those documents. So that is one of the plans that we are doing in terms of cascading. We want everyone to understand. We want everyone to understand the direction of the university, and at the same time, we want to get input from others as well. So sessions like this is very much welcome, right? So that we can discuss this. And the other thing, pasal saya also raised questions about APAR, about MSD, apa semua. I cannot answer on behalf of MSD lah kan. Tapi yeah, sometimes we do have problems, niggling problems of getting other officers to be on board in what we want to do. For instance, why we talk so much about key intangible performance. We want to see how much babies sites actually save rather than how many publications in the next journal, for instance. But we still have not been able to fully implement it because one of the reasons is because ourselves, we were so afraid of trying new things that we were afraid what other people will think about us. Right? we move away from ranking and people make noises already. Because why? Oh, everyone is looking at ranking, so we also must play the ranking game. And now when we say we want to look at impacts, oh, we want impact, but we were afraid what if people look at our publication. Oh, mana kita punya publication tak ada kah? So kita takut juga benda tu. So we are caught in the middle kan. Kita juga kadang-kadang yang tak nak berubah tu for fear of what other people will think of us kan. So if we are brave enough, we say we want to look at the impacts. So by all means, we go and look at the impact and don't make noise kata oh kita tak tengok publication, tak tengok marah and things like that. You see, when we move away from the ranking game, kan? Kita dalam ranking QS ranking for how many years already? How high have you achieved? We can never be number one pun kalau dalam QS ranking, given the criteria that they have apa semua kan. But when we go for, contohnya lah, I give you Green Gown Awards, right? Champion, we won the International Sustainability Institution of the Year, first time trying. Why? Because they measure us differently. If we continue with QS punya measurement, we remain in the number 600, 700 macam tu je lah. So there are strength in our university that people that we want to show to other people that orang kata apa? Yes, we have strength. We can be top number one in the world, but in certain areas that we are good at. All right. So you have to accept. You have to be brave. Kalau kata you nak something different, then let's go for something different. We talk about KIP, key intangible performance. We talk about flagships. In fact, when we talk about gender dysphoria, for instance, and one of the flagship from Kuantan campus, we don't talk about the number of maknya ke apa. We talk. They send 2 maknya to Mekah. That is the impact that we were really proud of. Okay? Compared kalau you kata they also inform us about their publication apa semua, but whenever we promote gender dysphoria, we always talk about the number, about how they managed to bring maknya to Mekah, perform Hajj apa semua. So those are the kind of impacts yang macam Syed kata lah kan, the number, how many babies yang actually we save. Those are the things that we are looking for. So I think in a way, we have to be brave to get out from what you call this, the fear that, you know, what nanti orang kata apa pula kan, macam tu lah kan. We even change our, I know we have made changes to our APAR, our promotion criteria. Probably it's not 100% implementable yet, but inshallah, we can do that. Like we can look at the actual things that make us good rather than just orang kata apa ni, universal punya kriteria yang semua orang kata okay, this is how you should be measured kan. We should be measuring ourselves the way we want to measure us. Itu je lah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Faris, for your response. Just before I go on the second round of questions, let us just look at one question coming from our audience. This question comes from Dr. Suhaimi in the chat box. He asked, during the LICOT, Tan Sri Rector did mention you are not invited syndrome. What does that mean?
Whom you are asking this question to?
Maybe Prof. Faridah or
Faris can jawab.
also Dr. Faris can also answer, no problem. What was that all about? I mean, you are not invited syndrome.
I think when we talk about working together, you know, and you don't have to wait for invitation. You know your roles, you know what's supposed to do, and then you come and join us, or something like that. Because people will say like, oh, I don't want to do it because I'm not invited. I don't know, out of frustration ke, malu-malu ke, maju. I don't know lah kan. Tapi that should not, to the rector, that should not be the way lah. He always give references macam my office is open, everyone can come in and see me, apa semua macam tu. You don't have to wait until rector invite you to come to the office, to his office, then only you can go. So I think he's trying to promote this openness, you know. so that everyone will be, it'll be easier for us to actually work together lah, rather than everything becomes so protocol-like, so official macam tu lah kan.
I see.
Can I respond? Can I respond?
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
I don't know what actually rector means by it, but what I understand from what he mentioned is that I think it is a very noble, it's a very good idea. Is that for you to give idea, you should not be invited to give idea, because we all are academicians, we all are adults, we all are very among the highest educated in Malaysia. So we should be the best of the best. So for us to give idea, we should not be invited to give idea. We should give the idea by ourselves. As long as we have idea, we should give. But the issue is the university ready to accept idea from everyone? How is it to give? Is it easy enough for us to give our idea? If I have an idea, is it easy enough for me to forward my idea? Is there lots of red tapes? Is there a lot of bureaucracy? Well, I have emailed to rector, spoke to rector. I must say it's not that easy actually to speak to him. Probably I need to work harder in that sense, but I do, and I did meet MSD director as well, and I don't think anything good comes up had come out of it. But I think the university must create a pathway that makes giving idea is easier from all levels, I think.
Okay.
Can I interfere, Mizan?
Sure, yeah, go ahead, Prof.
I have a different take on that issue because I know some colleagues are upset because they are experts of certain field, and when they offer and say, why don't you invite me? Rector say you don't need to be invited. But the thing is that Islamically speaking, kita nak masuk rumah orang pun kita kena bagi salam. Assalamualaikum. If tuan rumah tak kasi masuk, we cannot enter. And also the status of ilmuwan. We must respect our scholars. We cannot feel like, hey, you are treated like any one of us. But some experts are different than the others, you know, years of experience, level of expertise, so they must be respected. And for that reason, I think this invitation is a sign of respect, especially kalau dia memang bidang pakar dia. Apa salahnya? Humble ourselves and invite, oh, Professor so and so, we would like you to be in this cluster or that team. What is wrong with that invitation? Menghormati ilmuwan dalam Islam, taraf dia sangat tinggi. So I think, and in IIUM, the culture is that if you don't invite, we don't come. Terhege-hege, kita pun ada maruah. So I think we have to be humble at all level, recognize our talents, invite them. Invite them. Apa salahnya to come down to that level? That's my take, yeah, because I've been talking to a few so-called, you know, and I know they are experts. Yeah, they want to give, but every time nak masuk tu menunu-nunu macam tu tak kena. It must be invited.
Okay.
We have been invited people to join what you call this in many of our initiatives, especially now we have several task force going on kan, apa semua ni kan. Those are people that we actually invite them in lah. And in terms of giving ideas,
but I think
macam saya
Dr.
kata,
Faris, I think we need to identify talents.
yes.
Tengok ya bidang apa, identify them and then you set them properly. Macam IRK tu, Dr. Abdul Rahman Cik, dia mengajuk in a way because you know he's been long and his area is sastra Arab, budaya Arab, you know, adab. He's nowhere in the committee and I can mention other names, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. That comes nicely to my next question. Okay, so just now, first of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Syed's team on the milk bank. Although you didn't get proper sort of a recognition or appreciation to that, but I think you have got a lot of support from our members here now. So we have decided to choose a new set of standard in acknowledging our achievements, right? And we deviated from the mainstream. Now, in your opinion, Prof, how best can we get everybody involved and get mobilized so that everybody contribute to that achievement, so that those who even at CFS level in Gambang, who have always been treated as the second-class citizen in this university, can also give the biggest impact or contribution in that achievement. Prof?
What's the question for?
It's for you, Prof.
Oh, sorry. Well, again, I was like off track. Can you repeat that again? Sorry.
Oh, kena repeat lah. Nak kena tukar tune dah balik ni. Okay, so the university has decided to go on a new track in acknowledging our achievement, right? And we don't want to go with the mainstream. We wanted to set our own standard.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, how best can we mobilize every member of the university, even those in the remote Gambang campus or in the remote Pago? Can also be giving their best.
You have to have the buy-in. First, people must be convinced of the cost. They must fully understand what's the cost for. Faham, comprehension of that, understanding of that. People will not join in if they don't understand what it's all about. And because of that, engagement is important. As I said just now, you can't speak to a certain group of people or just give your PowerPoint, expecting the PowerPoint to speak for you, to the grassroots. It won't do. Posters do not do the speaking. People do. So you have to go down to the ground. By the ground, I mean, grassroots levels. Who are the grassroots levels? Not the dean, the heads of department, people, even persatuan like ASA, Kunya, and so on. Constant engagement must be there. People in person. It must not come like top-down instruction. It must be inclusive. You must listen more than you speak more. Ini kan kalau kita bercakap sampai berjam-jam, people just lose concentration. There must be a two-way communication, engagement. Listen to people. What are their problems? And then ask them, how do you want to solve this? Macam tadi, Syed, kan? Syed, how do you want to solve that problem? I'm sure you've got 101 ways how you want to solve. And one thing is, I think it's very important to empower campus. Janganlah semua gombak nak dictate. Let them do their things as well. We are all capable people. We are all scholars. Semua dah ada PhD semua. You must trust people. Just give them, this is what the university's objective, goal, and this is it. Then let them be their own boss. In that sense, they don't have to feel like, oh, I'm marginalized, I'm being sidelined, because they are their own owners. The ownership is on them to make things work for the university. That's one way. But I think continuous engagement must be there. A lot more listening than just talking. Walk the talk, so that people are convinced we are really we really mean business here. So I think continuous engagement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for that response. Now, buy-in. You mentioned that we need to have a buy-in in order to get everyone involved. Now, Dr. Faris, taking into consideration all the challenges that we are facing right now, the new norms, the new learning environments, and our dependence on technology is greater than ever, and there are a lot of limitations to that situation as well. Financial resources is very limited. Every time orang nak minta paper ke apa, tak ada budget, cari duit sendiri. And also I think that's a very important problem as well in terms of our organizational communication. How do you see the new roadmap 2021-2022 offer solution to all these problems?
We need more people like Syed. Tak dapat gaji 14 bulan pun steady lagi. Okay je. Sorry saya. But we are heading into something like uncharted territory because of this COVID pandemic and so on and so forth. With all the financial limitation and then the physical situation that we are facing where tak work from home lah apa semua ni kan. So in in our roadmap 2021-2022, we decided to focus a lot more on values, because we feel that if each of us have the correct values, right, we can survive this. We have a lot of problems currently with online learning. For instance, online examination, students are cheating. Right? Why? It all comes down to our values, like the students' individual values. If they are value, they like Prof. Faridah mentioned earlier in the session, you must be aware of your relationship with Allah. You must know that Allah is looking at you. So if you have that kind of awareness, that kind of values, we wouldn't have problems or student cheating in online examination, things like that. And now staff working from home, how many of them are actually working from home, right? So we can't monitor that. We cannot monitor that. So if our staff also possess the right values, then we can be assured that they are doing something good lah at home, really working lah kan. So nak monitor everyone, nak police everyone is difficult. So we have to rely on individual values. That's why in 2021, 2022, we make that as our main focus. In fact, the Sejahtera academic framework, we talk so much about values-based education. When we talk about values-based education, it's not just education to the student, but we, the staff, must also be values-based for us to actually educate the students. So it's orang kata apa, dua-dua kena ada values lah, barulah boleh jadi kan. Kalau bertepuk sebelah tangan apa orang cakap tu kan, tak jadi kan. And in terms of financial limitation, that is one thing that is very difficult to solve immediately. But I give you an example, where there is a way, where there is a will, there's a way, kan? For instance, like again, I go back to our flagships. Flagship, when you want to operational or you want to implement your flagship, you need a lot of funding, money. But we started off our flagship, we tell them we don't have money for you. And I was afraid at that time that many of these projects will die out macam tu je, because no funding semua kan. But alhamdulillah, because of the passion that these people have, they really want to do something good. Majority of our flagship has become very successful. Yeah. So even if we have the right values, we can see that monetary gain is not the only reward that we should be looking for. There are other things that is important as well in our life. And the orang kata apa, self-satisfaction, happiness at what we do, apa semua ni. Right? Money is important, but it's probably one part of the equation only. And when we talk about online learning apa semua ni, now there's orang kata apa, a new normal of education, kan, teaching and learning apa semua ni, online learning. That's why we introduce in Sejahtera Academic Framework this empowering our staff to do what's best for the students. Yeah? Giving them the flexibility to decide what is good, what is not, in terms of their delivery of instructions. So we don't provide a standard solution to everyone, because we believe that everyone is different. So we empower them, we give them flexibility, you do it. But if you need to be bounded by these values yang I cakap tadi tu. Because once you give empowerment, you give flexibility, if that person don't have the right values, dia akan entah ke mana-mana. Right? So that's why that values will hold us back to what we do. We have to remember, macam Prof kata tadi, Allah is watching us. Itu je. Right? And what else lagi? Apa lagi? Ada lagi?
Itulah.
Itu je. Okay. Tak ingat ada soalannya apa, Minca.
Okay. Tapi okay, I think you answered the question, and I think that brings to a very important concept in Islam, which probably less talked about. That is the very concept of ihsan. We talk about iman, we talk about Islam, but how do we, get our staff to really embrace and practice the concept of ihsan, that you are being watched, that someone is watching you, everything is is calculated, even if you don't see, you know, those kind of consciousness in ourselves in performing our duties. And talking about values, right? Just now, Dr. Syed was saying about the importance of being happy in order for you to carry out your duties and responsibilities, especially now with all the difficulties and, you know, challenges, hardships that we are facing at all levels in every aspect, not just in performing our responsibility at work, but also at home, you know. So in your opinion, Dr. Syed, what should we do to get our staff or our members of the university to stay steadfast and stay happy and stay motivated to work and contribute to this ummah?
Okay, thank you again for Sister Mizan for the question. Again, especially during COVID-19, so this pandemic is actually a major disruptor. It has disrupted everything that we have planned, but I think we have come out not that bad lah, I think. So I'll start off with some of the problems that I think first, and then I'll say what I think we should have done to actually improve the situation. The first thing is, I think academics and staffs are not as good as are not being looked after as well as how we look after our students. I think we have done so much effort in looking after our students, but I think not that much has been done to look after the welfare, the well-being of our staffs and our academicians. This I think we do need to improve. Like we have our staffs who are affected by COVID-19. What did we do for them? Have we done enough to actually look after them and their family? Have the university itself, yes, I know the department has done many things, but has the university itself looked after our staff who was afflicted by COVID-19, needing ventilation and so on and so forth? And we in Kuantan, I've been quarantined 3 times. I've been swabbed, I think 5 or 6 times. It's painful. And so I think, have we done enough to actually look after them who are afflicted with COVID, who are afflicted by flood and so on and so forth? Have we looked after them well? Next is issues with work from home. I think we have done quite well initially in allowing our staff to work from home. They don't need to come. But then the message that we receive, I think, is a bit mixed. For example, when the second wave came, there's an instruction for academicians and lecturers from CFS to come back to campus. Despite there's increase in numbers, Kuantan at that time was red zone, and so we are asking our staff from KL to come back to CFS. Despite there are no students in Gambang campus, there are no students, but we are asking our academicians to come to campus. What? It doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense. So it seems like we are prioritizing their presence in the campus rather than what they do, because there's no student, they can work from home, there's no reason for them to be in campus and so on and so forth. And when they do come, because of so many red tapes, even in SASMEC at that particular time, we don't allow people from outside Kuantan to receive treatment in SASMEC. So we are asking our staff to come back to Gambang, but then we don't even allow them to seek treatment. I think we have complained from one of the staff who's pregnant, who has contractions, and then they can't get treatment even in our own hospital. So this is a problem. So that case, I made several calls to make sure that our staff get actually proper treatment that she needs. But I think sometimes it seems that we are not looking after the welfare of our staff really well. Have we got psychological support, psychological first aid? I know my colleagues in KKM. I know my colleagues in KKM in Hotel Sungai Buloh. Many of, not many, some of them are depressed. They are stressed out. Many of the clinicians are stressed out with all because we are exposed to COVID and so on and so forth. So many quarantines, so many swabs is so stressful to our brain and to our pharynx when we are being swabbed so many times. So do we have adequate psychological support for them? Do we have any? So do we provide a medium for them to actually report or complain whether they're stressed and so on and so forth? Because we provide good care for our students, But when lecturers become stressed, do we have the adequate medium for them to actually complain and get help? The other thing is I need to acknowledge kudos to our team from Gomba. I don't remember which. I think was it academic. So I've had some lectures about, because I think UIA provided Microsoft Teams quite early on. UIA provided account for Zoom. And we've had teaching how to use Google Meet, which is very, very useful. That's very good, excellent. But I must say, even though we are International Islamic University, Al-Jamia Islamiyah Alamiyah, but then we are still behind UITM, for example, because by April, UITM has already identified how many students, by April 2020, UITM has already identified how many students of them, despite they have much more students than us and much more campuses than us. By April, they already have identified how many of their students who do not have good internet connection at home, and they are working out how to supply them by April, how to supply them with good internet connection at home. By May, most of the departments, even the clinical departments, the medicine, medical department, they already have provided adequate online teaching materials for their students, which we by that time, by May, kita baru struggle nak belajar macam mana nak buat Zoom meeting, macam mana nak ni. And then at that time UIA don't have Zoom account. I bought my account myself using my own money and use it for the teaching for the department. So I think yes, we did good, but we should be better. We should be better. And another thing is, we are already past 1 year with COVID. And I do think we need to be better with COVID. We should understand, medically, we already understand the disease better. So how we act with the disease, we should actually be better. This is already 1 year. It's not just UIA lah. Actually UIA is better than KPT. UIA is better than KPM. I think KPM is worse. They don't have any idea what's going on. Everyone is blur from top to down. The topmost and the downmost, everyone is blur. So I think this is so bad. It's already 1 year past COVID, and everyone seems to don't have clue what's going to do. Kejap macam ni, kejap macam tu. So betul lah tebuk atap kan. So anyway, I think we should do better, and then I think we need to have regular communication. So what I think we should have done to make our staffs better. The first thing, I think ASA. I think we have a new lineup of ASA, Academic Staff Association. I think ASA should play a huge role, and IIUM administration should actually acknowledge ASA. So ASA should play much more role. ASA should play a major role in actually championing the welfare and well-being of academic staff and also the staff of IIUM. And then again, I really push. We should be more flexible in terms of our work on campus. Or rector used to say, work from anywhere, WFA, work from anywhere. I remember there was one lecture, they said about Prof. Syed Alatas when he was the Vice Chancellor of UM. So someone asked him, because they saw during office hour, they saw UM lecturer playing golf. And Prof. Nakib said, if the lecturer gets more idea while the productivity increased by them playing golf, then that's fine. So I think that should be not allowing our staff to play golf lah. but at least we need to be more flexible with our order for work from campus. So we can work from anywhere, and we should focus on productivity and output rather than the total time spent working in campus especially. So I think that should be the role. We should focus on output and productivity rather than total time presence, especially in campus. Next one is, I think we should for my projection is COVID will stay with us for a very, very long time. Indonesia have started vaccinating. Singapore has vaccinated more than 12,000. Malaysia, we haven't even got our vaccine yet. And they said, KKM said, probably end of February only we'll get our first batch of vaccine. And that COVID vaccine, I tell you, is going to work only 1 month after the second dose. And mind you, the second dose we should receive 4 weeks after the first dose. But many countries, because of shortage of doses, they only receive the second dose up to 2 to 3 months afterwards. So I can tell you, we can expect to have COVID until the end of the year. So we should have projection how we are going to live with COVID. It's already 1 year. We are all clever people. We should come up with better ideas. So we should project that. So we will stay with COVID for a very long time. Next is we need to have proper PFAs, psychological first aid support for our academic staff. We do have for our students, but again, our staffs also have stress. Talking to screens is stressful. Talking to screens is stressful. So I think we do need to have that proper PFAs. And then again, MSD and HR should have lots more work to do. MSD, I think you cannot run away from, because they are the human resource. They should cater for human beings, not just treat stuff like samples and specimen. So I think those are among the idea that I think we do need to do in terms of to improve our happiness. And again, happiness will, the product of happiness is better outcome, better productivity, and so on and so forth.
Thank you, Dr. Syed. I guess probably after this, Dr. Faris, we need to come up with a special task force to look into the staff welfare. We have the task force for the students, but we have been probably to a certain extent overlooked the welfare of our staff, and this needs to be catered, I think, as soon as possible. Otherwise, we are doomed to, we are subject to, you know, some chaos situation.
In fact, I have written an article in newspaper about happiness and productivity. So I'm hoping that the right people will take that up and put it into implementation.
It seems like there are a lot of messages that we received in our chat box, which discuss about this problem of communication. You know, that it seems like there's still a missing link between the top management and the people at the grassroots, and I guess probably that's also another area that really need to be looked into. If we really want to get this roadmap, you know, working and moving as planned. Prof. Faridah, do you have anything to say about this communication, given the fact that you were part of the UMC members before?
Yeah, I think our internal communication has been bad for so long already. That's why, you know, whatever that we do sometimes doesn't really pick up. So I think even our communication department is understaffed. So they are doing a bit of everything. You know, they look into events, they look into IIUM radio, television. They're doing all sorts of things. So for this one to communicate, you know, real things, the mission of the university, you need a real task force. Not only for this, you know, the 7 task force. I would suggest that for each trust, you have each task force, so that it's translated into action. Otherwise, we're just talking about what we want, what we desire, but how do you translate that into action unless there are proper caretaker for every trust? Macam tadi kan, balance staff. There must be a proper task force. Kerja dia tengok ni je. Balance student. Kerja dia tengok tu je. You know, sustainable institution tu je kerja dia. You know, and you can get all the help you need lah for this task force, because we need to mobilize the university. You want to lead the way, but if we don't have the means, you're just talking. You know, it's just PR work. It's just campaign to sound nice, but we don't really translate that into action. So I think the next way forward is to get people to translate all these things nice on paper into action. You have to pick the right people. That's my advice lah. You know?
I guess that's also probably one of the ways to get another 60% of our staff members get involved.
I do agree with Prof. Faridah punya idea just now, where we really have to operationalize what we wanted to do in the roadmap. And the idea of having a task force, that is a pretty good idea. We can look into that. And the other thing at the moment, what we have done is that out of the roadmap framework, there are 8 action plans that we are devising, and each are being championed by the UMC members. And so we have 8 action plans regarding the education, research, community engagement, sustainability, and things like that. So all of them we are now consolidating all this action plan. We have received them from the all the 8 champions. And again, communication, like I mentioned just now, we'll be doing this cascading. This is when we plan to share and get feedbacks on what we wanted to do or how we want to operationalize this in the future with all the community members of IUM.
Yeah, and I think there's huge hope here that something needs to be done with our website. It seems like it seems like our website is not, meeting the expectation of being one of the most important platforms to communicate all this information. Yeah, so probably if we have representatives from OCAP or anyone who is taking care of the website, probably this need to be addressed immediately.
I thank all for the reminders, and we are also aware of this. In fact, just to let everyone know, OCAP is actually working on revamping the website. But I don't know how much have they progressed. Yeah, but we realize this as well.
Alhamdulillah. Do we have, so we have about 7 minutes before we end our session. We'll be ending at 11 o'clock. I'm gonna open the discussion. Maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions from the audience. If there's anyone, please go ahead. You can ask question. Ada tak? Any question? We welcome any question from anyone on regarding anything about the roadmap. Semua dah faham kot, Dr. Faris, Prof. Semua as-sukut alamatul ridha.
I don't think that's the case. I myself having problem understanding the roadmap. No, yeah, I appreciate that everyone taking time to understand the roadmap. What I can promise you is that we will do the cascading. We hope we can do better this time, and I'm looking forward to support and feedbacks from all members of the IUM community. This is not top management punya roadmap. This is our roadmap, kan? Hopefully we all can join hands together and work towards implementing it and see that is a success, and with that make the university a more successful university lah, itu je.
Okay.
Sister Mizan?
Yes.
Okay, can I say something?
Yes,
okay.
We have Prof. Amir.
Okay, I'm Amir here. Okay, so I think when we are doing the communication, the cascading of this roadmap, okay, we just like to avoid the usual pitfalls that we have in IIUM. Okay, at the end of the day, when we are communicating the message, you will see what we have previously when people are complaining about how to use Zoom and all this online learning. At the end of the day, when we do all the workshops and so on, we are doing it to the same people. The same people will come again, and the people who are complaining and do all these things will not turn up. Okay, so we have to ensure that when we do the cascading and so on, we will be able to communicate the information to everybody. Okay, not just to the one who's supporting or the one who complains, but everyone should be involved because we are in this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for the pointer. I think that should be the way to do it as well, kan? Inshallah, we will look into that.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Amir. Just a last thought from Prof. Faridah, maybe.
Yeah, I would like to keep all forms of communication open. So this culture of shutting up people should not be there on the roadmap. I know rector said, shut up. That should not be in it at all, because we should allow people to express their unhappiness, their grievance, whether it's constructive or not. Let them go. Let them voice out, because that's one way to get them to come in. If they are listened to, they will come in. If you reject them, lagi jauh dia pergi. So this budaya of shutting up should not be there. We welcome all voices, but of course, reminder to everybody, we have to do it with adab. Constructive criticism must be welcome, right? So that's my last take on the issue. Thank you.
Dr. Syed, any last word from you?
I think last word from me is I think we do need some more change in terms of our culture, looking after not just our students, but looking after our own well-being as well, our own staff, academic staff well-being. Again, happiness, the outcome of happiness is productivity. People will never be productive when they are unhappy. People will leave us not because of the bond that we give to them, but because they are happy with us. They understand the aspiration of the university. And I think that should be the way to go. And I do agree with Prof. Faridah. I think we do need to inculcate the culture where people can say what do they want to say, as long as it is with adab, as long as it is with evidence. Kul hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqin. As long as people have idea, as long as the idea is based on reality, and it should not just be permitted, it should be encouraged. We should encourage a culture where all our academicians should be encouraged to say what do they think they should say, whichever medium they can go, as long as it is not against the law, as long as it is with adab, as long as it shows the respectfulness of an academician and scholar.
Okay, I just would like to regarding this syarat punya cerita ni, I'd say it's not about making people shutting up. It's not about discouraging people from giving ideas. It was simply to say that if you want to speak up, like you mentioned correctly enough, if you want to speak up with adab, speak up with facts. We are academic institution. When you make statements, it should be based on academic standing, not just you pick things out of the blue, you pick something you see on the internet without really researching it, and then put on your social media apa semua, macam tu lah. So speak up, speak up, but with the right adab, the right
but I think that would be a better phrase, Dr. Faris, than
I know.
shut up, because shut up means negativity. You're just slamming up people and gagging. So perhaps just turn it into something positive.
Probably speak up is a better.
Speak up is better. Yeah.
I will share this dengan Rector.
Thank you.
Okay.
He made that up the night before the presentation. We have no chance to see, and he just blasted it out during the Khaliq. Everyone was wow.
Yeah, so that actually created sort of a commotion to a certain extent. But I think it's a good thing that at least now people are, more engaged and, more coming forward to say what they wanted to say. So Alhamdulillah, thank you so much to all of our speakers for your time and your contribution, your ideas, your opinions, views, as well as to all of our listeners out there. Before we end this session, I would like to quote a hadith, riwayat Bukhari wa Muslim. Al-mu'min lil-mu'min kal-bunyan yashuddu ba'duhu ba'da. And I think it's a very important call that we need to make today, that we should not just be Muslims, but we need to be mu'min, who will support each other, who will strengthen each other and work together to achieve the common goals of the university. And I think only then we can build a very strong staff that will be leading the way, inshallah, and will become the one who will lead the ummah, inshallah. So I hope that everyone will stay tuned, because this is not our one and only webinar series. When we have this in mind, when we talked about creating this webinar, all the ASA ESCO members together with IWON representatives, we had in mind that we wanted to create this culture of critical discourse and openness in discussing issues affecting us all. So next week, we will be presented with another series of discussion, a very important discussion in order for us to really achieve this roadmap. That is the discussion on the Sejahtera Academic Framework. I know that on this coming Friday, there will be a discussion on the Sejahtera Academic Framework from our deputy rectors. But next week, let's listen from the middle management and the grassroots level pula. We see whether everyone has got the idea correct, whether everyone has understood the idea of sejahtera ni. Macam mana nak sejahtera kalau tak happy ni, kan? So I thank everybody for your time. Stay tuned. Don't forget the 7 ups: mask up, wash up, line up, speak up instead of shut up.
Yeah.
Wake up, cheer up, and buckle up. We have a lot to do in order for us to move forward. Thank you so much. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam. Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Irwan, next week invite sekali lagi Irwan. Participant lah, bukan discussion. Tak dengar juga.
Sure, insyaAllah.
Yeah?
Sure.
What time next week?
We plan to have it on Monday morning, insyaAllah.
10.
Monday morning, insyaAllah. Okay. Alright.
Okay.
Thanks Asa for this. I really appreciate your involvement in communicating what we are trying to do to your members apa semua ni. In fact, true enough, you've been trying to get Asa to get involved banyak. Not just Asa lah, PMA ke-1 and so on. Right? So I hope you can be one of our ambassadors juga lah untuk cascade this lah. Yeah. Disagreement is fine. Disagreement is fine, but itulah, together we work for the betterment of
the way I see it is that we are just like a big family lah. So how
Yes.
you have to allow for